The Frescobaldi are a prominent Florentine noble family that have been involved in the political, sociological, and economic history of Tuscany since the Middle Ages. Originating in the Val di Pesa in the Chianti, they appear holding important posts in Florence in the 12th century. In the struggles of Guelfs and Ghibellines, the family was split between the Guelf factions of Bianchi and Neri, of whom only the Bianchi remained in Florence. Early history. From an early economic base in the Italian community of cloth merchants in Bruges, the Frescobaldi expanded the banking interests to the home city of Florence in the 13th century. The power base in the city's affairs lay in the participation in the small network that controlled the great cloth working arti, the Art della Lana, the Art di Calamala, the Guild of Cloth Finishers and Merchants in Foreign Cloth, and the cambio, or money exchange. In Florence, the Frescobaldi found themselves on the wrong side in the attempted power coup of the Grandi in 1343 and were henceforth barred from public service in the Republic, but the Frescobaldi remained prominent in the lesser offices still open to them, such as podesta in the small towns governed from Florence, and through the web of marriage connections among the Florentine ruling class. As bankers, the Frescobaldi financed ventures for numerous members of European royal families, notably the financial conquest of England, which Fernand Braudel has signaled as the greatest achievement of the Florentine firms, not only in holding the purse strings of the kings of England, but also in controlling sales of English wool, which was vital to continental workshops and in particular to the Art della Lana of Florence. Quote, in the 1270s, the Frescobaldi opened an office in London and began financing the wars of King Edward I, eventually supplanting the pioneering Riccardi of Lucca, who were driven to bankruptcy by unpaid loans made to Edward. The Frescobaldi were receivers of the customs of England from 1307, and also served as papal tax gatherers in England, helping to finance the Crusades. With the king's death in 1307, leaving a debt to all creditors that amounted to £30,000, Amadeo da Frescobaldi continued in the favoured but dangerous position under Edward II. With the fall of Walter Langton, the royal treasurer, at the outset of the new reign, the bishop's debtors, many of them Italians, were instructed to render the debts to Frescobaldi. In 1309 he was granted all the wool customs from Ireland and Scotland. The barons' pressure against the influence of foreigners in the king's affairs, exemplified most prominently against the Gascon favourite, Piers Gaveston, swept up Frescobaldi, who at the time of the ordinances of 1311 was ordered to tally up his accounts by October, and was arrested and all his goods seized. Frescobaldi fled England, first to Papal Avignon and then to Florence. The royal debt was never repaid, and together with other reverses in the economic downturn of the 14th century, led to the bankruptcy of the Frescobaldi. A second Frescobaldi bankruptcy, in 1581, Braudel traces to the general movement of capital and trade to the north. The family included several literary figures, including Dino Frescobaldi, a poet, and Leonardo Frescobaldi, who visited Egypt and the Holy Land in 1384 and wrote valuable historical accounts of the countries he visited, noting the customs, social life and economics. The composer Girolamo Frescobaldi, however, does not seem to be related to them. Present day. The family is currently headed by Marchese Vittorio Frescobaldi and his brothers, the Marquis Ferdinando da Frescobaldi Franceschi Marini and Leonardo da Frescobaldi Franceschi Marini. The Frescobaldi family operates the wine producer Marchese da Frescobaldi and is behind the Laudemio brand of Italian olive oil. History of wine production. The Frescobaldi family began producing Tuscan wine in 1308 and soon developed a notable client base. In exchange for paintings, the Frescobaldis traded the wine with the Italian Renaissance painter Michelangelo. The family also supplied wine to Henry VIII. Surviving contracts in the family archives are signed by the English king. The agronomist Vittorio degli Albizzi was an in-law of the Frescobaldi family through the marriage of his sister Leonida to Anciolo Frescobaldi. With Frescobaldi financing, he was able to pioneer modern wine production techniques in Tuscany. In 1855, Albizzi introduced Chardonnay, Cabernet and Merlot vines to the region. Partnership with Mondavi. In 1995, the Marchesi de Frescobaldi entered into a joint venture with Robert Mondavi Winery to produce Tuscan wine. The joint venture produced several labels including Danzante, Luce della Vite, and the Wine Spectator 2001 Wine of the Year, Ornellaia. Following the acquisition of Mondavi by Constellation Brands in December 2004, the Frescobaldi family has been attempting to gain full control of the Tuscan ventures. In March 2005, the family was able to acquire control of Luce della Vite and Ornellaia in April 2005. Fraud allegations. In 2005, allegations of fraud against Marchesi de Frescobaldi were investigated by the Italian authorities. The allegations of fraud related to the winemaking facility at Castiglione in Val di Pesa and a bottling facility near Pontassi. The wine producer was suspected of importing grapes from outside the Tuscan region and labeling them as Tuscan-grown for benefits of DOC and DOCG appellation labeling. In 2008, Frescobaldi was implicated in an investigation involving fraudulent Brunello di Montalcino wine of the 2003 vintage in a scandal termed Brunello Poli by Italian newspapers. Although offered an out-of-court settlement, Marchesi de Frescobaldi has opted to go to court to clear its name of the allegations. Tenuta di Toscana. In May 2006, the Frescobaldi family merged the Tenuta dell'Ornellaia, Castelgiocondo and Luce della Vite wine holdings into a new venture partnership, Tenuta di Toscana, with Stolichnaya Vodka and Michael Mondavi.